Hello, this is Bilal, your economic instructor. Today we have a lot of MCQs to solve for the chapter Market Structures. We'll be covering objectives of a firm, perfect competition, imperfect competition that includes monopolistic, monopoly, and oligopoly. So let's get started. All right. The first MCQ, what is most likely to be found when comparing the long run equilibrium outcome in a monopolistic competition with that in a perfect competition? So, monopolistic competition has a lot of suppliers selling similar but differentiated goods, whereas a perfect competition has homogeneous goods and there is perfect knowledge. A greater degree of excess capacity in monopolistic competition. Well, this is correct, because what happens is, in the long run, when the number of suppliers increase, a lot of market share is lost to that competition. Hence, our firm is able to produce 100 units, but now we are producing only 60 units. So there'll be always excess capacity in a monopolistic competition. There'll be excess capacity in perfect competition as well, but in monopolistic it would be greater, right? Let's look at all the other options so we can eliminate. Higher level of profits in monopolistic competition. Well, this is incorrect, because both monopolistic and perfect competition are likely to get normal profits. A larger number of firms in monopolistic competition. Well, we have more firms in perfect competition rather than monopolistic. More price elastic demand curve in monopolistic. We all know that we have a perfectly elastic demand curve in perfect competition, highest degree of elasticity. So this is again incorrect. All right, let's move on to the second one. A firm is operating in perfect competition. What will be the effect on the firm's revenue if it increases the output by 5%? Now, this is a relatively easy question. I'll just make a graph over here to explain the concept. It's a dollar quantity. Currently, we are producing, let's say, 100 units at a price of $1. All right. So if the output increases by 5%, this becomes 105. So initially, I was earning 100 as revenue because every product was sold at $1. Now I'm earning 105. So my revenue also increased by 5%. Whenever the demand is perfectly elastic, the revenue would increase by the same proportion as the demand increase. So the output increases by 5%, the revenue will increase by 5%. So B is the right answer. Which diagram shows the total revenue function of a firm in a perfect competition? Now this is very important in a perfect competition. We discussed the case above. The number of units that we increase, the total revenue will increase. So if the output is increasing, the total revenue remains the same. This is incorrect. If the output remains the same, well, this cannot happen. The output can change in the short and the long run, and the revenues would change. So A is incorrect as well. Now C and D. Output increases, the total revenue increases. So this is correct. And D is correct when the demand curve is downward sloping. Hence, it's asking in a perfect competition, therefore D is incorrect. Now, I know a lot of you might blindly tick D as the right answer, but you need to read every aspect of the question. Moving on. The diagram shows the cost and revenue curves of a monopolistic whose only cost of production is fixed cost. Well, only fixed cost means there is no variable cost, right? Okay. This becomes technical now. It's a concept similar to what we have studied in natural monopoly, where majority of the fixed cost is the total cost. Majority of the total cost is the fixed cost, sorry. Now, in this case, there is only fixed cost, all right? So let's look at an example. Let's say 0 units, the fixed cost is 100. 1 unit, the fixed cost is still 100. The total cost is 100 and 100 as well. So according to this, if I say the cost of additional unit is 0, therefore, we don't have a marginal cost graph because marginal cost is 0. Let's look at another example. If my number of units become 2, the fixed cost is still 100, the total cost is still 100, the cost of this additional unit is 0. Therefore, marginal cost is equal to 0. So if we want to maximize the profits, we need to produce at MC is equal to MR. And MC is equal to 0. So at this point, MR is also equal to 0. Now, this was a mind-blowing MCQ. Hence, we would be charging a price of D, and D is the right answer. A monopolist chooses an output that maximizes profit and makes normal profits. What must be correct at the output chosen? So we're trying to maximize profits, which basically means our MC is equal to MR, but we are making a normal profit, which means our average revenue or the price is equal to our average total cost. What must be correct? Average cost equals to average revenue. Well, that is the answer, and that is what I discussed. So nothing further. We'll look at all the options. Average revenue equals marginal revenue. Well, that is not the case. Marginal cost is minimum. No, monopolist is allocatively efficient. Well, a point to note is no imperfect competition is allocatively efficient. So that is the thing that you need to keep in mind when solving MCQs. The market structure of an industry changed from being an oligopoly to a monopolistic competition. What is most likely to have increased? So if there is monopolistic, means the number of suppliers might have increased. Let's look at the option. An individual's ability to influence the market price. Well, this is incorrect. Oligopoly has more power to change prices. Individual firm degree of interdependency in the market, interdependence in the market. Well, this is incorrect. Oligopoly has more interdependence in the market. Concentration ratio. Oh, so the concentration ratio of, let's say, 5 firms might have decreased. Therefore, it's a monopolistic. Number of firms in the market. Well, easy peasy. That is the right answer. What is a characteristic of a monopolistic competition? Abnormal profits in long run? No, they have normal profits. They can have abnormal. They can even have losses. Advertising supporting product differentiation. Well, that is the key factor. If you have a different product, you need to advertise. All firms charge the same price. Well, there is a slight difference in the prices that can be charged. So this is incorrect. Barrier to entry are high. Well, they are high. No, they're low, right? They are higher compared to the perfect competition. Hence, D is not the right answer. What is a condition for operating a successful cartel? Well, cartel means we need to have a leader, we need to have less members. Let's look at the options to figure out what is right. A large number of firms in the industry, that will be a weak cartel. Each firm has differentiated product. If my product is different from your, we won't make a cartel. It has to be similar. So that cannot be the answer. Low barriers to entry. Well, no. If the barrier of entry is low, people will enter the market, exploit our cartel powers. D, strictly enforced production quotas, which means every firm can produce a specific amount of goods and sell them. So that is right. Okay, which feature of oligopoly is being assumed when the demand curve for individual is as shown? So it's basically a kinked demand curve, right? So kinked demand curve shows that we will be charging prices at the kink, which is P. We won't be increasing the prices because then other firms will not follow. Hence, our revenues will decrease. But if we decrease the prices, other firms will engage in price wars and eventually it will affect them. So there is interdependency. So this shows interdependency. Ninth, right? Price leadership is not made like this. Price discrimination is a concept of monopoly, so not over here. Collusion is basically cartel and price leadership. So this is also incorrect. What does the kinked demand curve model suggest about equilibrium price in an oligopoly? It will be stable because there is little incentive to change prices. Well, this makes sense. This is right. It will be stable because there's a lot of competition. Well, not a lot. In an oligopoly, we have few suppliers. C, it will change frequently. Well, no. And D, it will change frequently. I don't even need to read the other part. It's incorrect. The information gives the characteristic of a market structure. Two leading brands control 60% of the market, which makes it an oligopoly. Other firms and few smaller firms exist in the market. Prices tend to be stable, which indicates price rigidity. There are significant barriers to entry. Again, it can be either a monopoly or a oligopoly because high barriers to entry. Well, because there are two firms controlling 60% of the market share, it's an oligopoly. Simple. 11. C. 12. The table provides some details of soft drink industry in a country, number of firms 215, number of brands 1000, five firm concentration ratio 65. What does this mean? This means that top five firms are controlling 65% of the sales. Which market structure best describes the country's soft drink industry? Again, oligopoly. Okay, let's move forward. 13. Table shows five firm concentration ratio for a selection of industries in an economy. Okay, selection of industries in an economy. Tobacco, okay, industry, percentage of total sales accounted by five largest firms in the industry in terms of percentage. So basically this is showing us a five firm concentration ratio. So it's 95 oligopoly, 60 oligopoly, water supply 60 oligopoly, printing 12%. It can be a monopolistic because top five companies have a very small share. So let's look at the options. The firms are of equal size in the steel industry and water supply industry. Well, if they have the same market share, it does not mean that the size is similar. The printing industry is more competitive than the tobacco industry. Well, yes. Yes. This can be the answer. The printing industry is more competitive. Usually, the ones with lower barriers to entry and more suppliers mean that they are more competitive. So, B is can be correct. The tobacco industry is a monopoly market. Well, if top five firms have a 95% market share, it's a strong oligopoly. It won't be a monopoly. C is incorrect. There are more firms in tobacco industry than in water supply. Well, we cannot say for sure, and this is incorrect. Why? Well, 5% of the companies account for 95% of the share. So we only have 5% share remaining. So usually less share means there will be less companies, whereas water supply, 5%, five firms have 60% of the share, which means 40% is remaining. So there are chances there'll be more. So this cannot be the answer. A firm wishes to eliminate competition and become a monopoly. What should it do? It can buy it simply, I think. Let's see. What should it do? Should it maximize output? Maximize output means that you're producing at a point where your average revenue is equal to average total cost, the prices are lowest, and you're earning normal profits, making it difficult for other firms to stay in the market. So this could be the answer, but let's look at the other options. Maximize profits. Well, if you're maximizing profits, you're charging higher prices and you cannot eliminate competition. Reduce prices. Well, this is a straightforward answer. Reduce prices, although maximizing output also means reducing prices, but again, C is straightforward, so we'll choose C. Reduce the number of its supplier. How? How can you reduce the number of its supplier? That is the important question. So therefore, D cannot be the answer. You need to tell us how. Had C not been given, A not been given, we could have considered D. But because C is a better answer, we'll go with C. And that is the correct answer. 15. The diagram shows a firm in a monopoly producing Q units. Okay, so we are maximizing profits right here. And the ATC is greater, which means we are incurring losses. What kind of monopoly does this? All right. What outcome can be observed? We are minimizing the losses. MC is equal to MR maximizes the profit or minimizes the losses. So A is the right answer. Many public utilities can be described as natural monopolies. Which statement best describes the situation leading to a natural monopoly? There are high fixed costs and falling average cost over all output demanded. Well, the fixed costs are high and they make up the total majority of the total cost. Hence, the average total cost is falling throughout the production. The number of units that you increase the production, the average cost keeps on falling. So, well, this is the right answer. You can look at the graph and you can account it for yourself. So, fixed costs are high. They make up the majority portion of the total cost, and therefore average total cost has a shape similar to the fixed cost. A is correct. Alright, so that is the best situation describing natural monopoly. There are legal restrictions. Well, not legal, but the government does not allow, so that is not technically legal. A single firm controls the supply of raw material. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? The firm has a patent on essential processes. That would make it a pure monopoly, not a natural monopoly. 17. An airline sells seat at 100 each 3 months before a flight, 150 1 month before a flight, 200 each day before the flight. What describes this type of market behavior by the firm? Well, clearly it is a price discrimination. I don't even need to look further. Just look for where is price leadership. Price discrimination. Well, B seems to be the right answer. I don't even need to waste my time in the paper on such MCQs. Well, it's always better to read the other options as well. All right, I'm just joking. Okay, now this is a tricky one. The diagram shows a competitive industry facing constant marginal and average cost. So the marginal cost and average cost are constant. Current equilibrium QC prices PC. So this is my initial equilibrium. Okay. A series of horizontal merger generate economies of scale, create a monopoly in the industry. The new equilibrium output is QM, price is PM. So this is the new equilibrium. Right? So MC is equal to MR at the new one. So this is the point. So the price would be PM. All right. Which area represents the consumer surplus? Now, anything above the supply curve, anything above the supply curve and below the price is my consumer surplus. So below the price area W and X. I cannot go below this because I won't be selling this, right? So W and X are the right answer. Let's look at the option, which is B. 19. The organizers of a major sporting event produce unofficial sovereign products. Cheaper unofficial souvenirs are also produced by street traders who sell them to people walking to the event. What is an example? What is this an example of? Well, this is a contestable market. There are no barriers to entry. Anyone can make it and sell it. However, if there was a trademark or a license or a patent, things would have been different. But it does not specify this, which means anyone can produce those souvenirs and sell it in the market for cheaper rates. This shows that the barrier to entry is not existing. Hence, A is the right answer. Which condition must apply before a market can be regarded as perfectly contestable? So for a perfectly contestable market, the barrier to entry should be low or zero. So let's look at the option. There are zero costs to entry to exit from the industry. So D supposedly is the best answer. It matches the definition. I don't need to look at the other options. What is likely to have its cause in separation of ownership and control in a firm? So what situation the ownership and the control of the firm is differentiated, it's separated basically. So this concept is known as principal agent problem. So it's basically the examiner is asking simple definitions. Right now in A2 economics, because there are a lot of theories, sometimes the MCQs would just focus on basic definitions. What is generally associated with the principal agent problem? All right. Directors prefer company growth to a greater shareholder dividend. Well, that makes perfect sense. That is why the management who control the firm have different targets and objectives, whereas the shareholders who own the company have different objectives. Managers ignore the workers' concern about the safety in the workplace. So if they're ignoring their safety as well. So that's not a principal agent. The ownership and the control making decisions is not divided. The managers are deciding it. So this is incorrect. Shareholders determine the price of the product. Well, if they decide the price of the product, they control, they own. There is no separation of ownership and control. So C cannot be the answer. Workers go on a strike against a manager. So neither the worker own the company nor the manager. So there is no separation of ownership and control. D cannot be the answer. 23. When will the principal agent problem occur? When managers are not allowed to become shareholders. Well, if the managers become the owners, the principal agent problem will finish, because then the control and the ownership will be by the same people. So this cannot be the right answer. When the members of a cartel collude to gain higher profits. So this has nothing to do with principal agent problem. This is regarding oligopoly. So this cannot be the answer. One firm dominates the market. Incorrect. That's a monopoly. When owners have different objectives to managers, only then a principal agent problem would occur. And the managers who control will make different decisions, while the owners that own would want different decisions to be made, creating a principal agent problem. So D is the right answer. A landlord owns a house which is rented to tenants. Tenants are required to pay electricity and water bills. The landlord is required to decorate and repair damage to the house and its garden. What is not an example of a principal agent problem? Tenant forget to switch off a tap when filling a bath and water overflows, damaging the floor. So if the floor is damaged, so the repair is done by the landlord. Hence it's a principal agent problem. A principal, an agent makes a loss which has to be compensated by the landlord, who is the principal in this case, right? So this is, and we need to look at not an example. So 24A cannot be the answer. Tenants have a party and their guest caused damage to the interior of the house. So again, the same concept. The interior will be repaired by the landlord. The decision was taken by the tenants, and this shows principal agent problem. They will act, the tenants will act what they feel fit, they feel right, and the compensation is done by the landlord. So this is a principal agent problem. Tenants leave the light and the TV on when they go out for an evening meal. So if they go out and they switch on the lights and keep them on, they will have to compensate for it. So the landlord is not affected. Hence, this is not a principal agent problem, and hence this is the right answer. The tenants park the car in the garden, damaging the grass and surrounding hedges. Again, this loss will be compensated by the landlord. Hence, it's a principal agent problem. Okay, which level of output is sales maximization achieved consistent with earning normal profit? At which level of output sales maximization is achieved with earning normal profit? Now it's sales maximization, it's not sales revenue maximization. Revenue is always mentioned. Sales maximization is a point where average cost is equal to average revenue, and this is the point. As simple as that. D. The diagram shows profit maximizing monopolist. What would be the change in price if this monopolist changed from profit maximization to revenue maximization? Right, so profit maximization occurs at this point and revenue maximization occurs at this point. So we are currently at R, at profit maximization, and we would be at S when we are at revenue maximization. So R to S, that should be the right answer. The goal of firm X is to make a minimum acceptable level of profit. A minimum acceptable level of profit means profit satisficing. B is the right answer. The last MCQ, well, this is a very long video, sorry for that. A rock band is due to play at a concert hall. In order to create a good atmosphere, the band's aim is to sell all the tickets. Ticket prices are set at the highest price to ensure all tickets will be sold. What is the motivation for this price strategy? So we are selling it at a higher price because we want to sell all the tickets. Now, let's look at the option. The band's aim is to sell all the tickets. The ticket prices are set at the highest price to ensure all tickets will be sold. So we are selling all tickets at the highest price possible. What are we trying to do? We are trying to maximize our sales revenue. That is what's happening. Would there be profit maximization? Well, the concept has nothing to say regarding MC or MR, so it's pretty unclear whether A could be the answer. Would it be revenue maximization? In revenue maximization, we won't be able to sell all the units. But sales maximization could be the answer because we are selling all the tickets and we are setting the price highest, which means we are setting the price at a level where all the tickets could be sold. So that is the concept. We're trying to sell all the tickets. We're trying to maximize the sales output rather than sales revenue, because had it been sales revenue, the question would have said something about marginal revenue is equal to 0. But the fact that it says we are selling all the tickets, that means we are trying to maximize the sales output. Hence, C is the right answer. Now, this is a confusing MCQ. I know some of you might be confused at certain points, but some MCQs are meant to be that way. All right. That is it for today. Thank you for watching. Until next time.